Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Discard for Magic, a Summoner Wars podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron.
I'm the other host, James or Jexic, and today it's terrific to have on Tortugatron.
Hello, everybody. This is Tortugatron.
So why don't you start out, Tortugatron, and just tell us a bit about how you came to Summoner Wars.
I think it was... Did the Master Set in first edition come out in like 2012 or something like that?
About then, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was right around 2012. My first foray into Summoner Wars was the Master Set. I saw it on one of Tom Vassal's reviews on the Dice Tower, and he was raving about it, and this was right when I was first getting into the hobby board game world. So I was just watching every single review I could and buying a bunch of games. I played like Catan and Carcassonne, Ticket to Ride, that kind of stuff. But when I saw Summoner Wars, it was like a 1v1 battle type game. I really liked those growing up. Like I had a bunch of different Risk variants that I'd play with like friends from the neighborhood and things. So I decided to, pull the trigger and buy that one. My girlfriend at the time, she didn't really like the confrontational games, but it just looked too cool not to get. So I got it like right away. Once it came in the mail, I set it up on my table in my dining room and like played against myself because she wasn't going to play with me. I think my first matchup was like Deep Dwarves versus Shadow Elves. And I played that one just over and over again, playing both sides of it. Back then, I lived up in Fargo, North Dakota. I had moved up there for a couple years. And I didn't really know that many people around there, so I didn't really have anyone to play with. So I found the community online on the old Plaid Hat Games forums. I got involved in the community there and, found out about the Vassal, Tabletop Simulator 8-bit edition, whatever it was. Got some games in that I would have normally not been able to do in person. Then the app came out, the old Playdeck app, and then I got a bunch of games in on that. So, yeah, then I started, running tournaments and...
Did you have like a faction from that Master Set, the first edition one, that you liked a lot?
I really liked the Shadow Elves and the Sand Goblins a lot, which is funny now because those are two of my least favorite ones in second edition. So
They are two that have probably changed the most, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, Shadow Elves were one of my favorites in first edition too, and I also disliked them in second edition. They're probably bottom 3 for me in second edition. So
yeah, I think they're bottom 2 for me. I mean, everybody knows what the bottom 1 is.
I mean, your bottom one is obviously it's the fungal dwarves. You hate the fungal dwarves.
Yeah, close. One of those infecting type of ones. Honestly, I've been trying to play Shadow Elves again recently, and I don't know, they might be rising up a little bit because I'm kind of finally starting to figure them out. So maybe Cave Goblins would be second least favorite now.
It's just not fair. Cave Goblins are so fun. What is it that you dislike about the Cave Goblins?
I don't know. I feel like it's so hand dependent for me. I just can't seem to get a good setups for like good sneak turns, and they don't click with me.
You don't need to use sneak.
Yeah, I often discard sneak. Like they say, don't discard cards with Cave Goblins, but I'll often discard sneak.
Yeah, sneak's one of the ones you don't necessarily need. If it's useful at the time, definitely play it.
I just feel like there's so many units out there. I gotta move them all.
True.
Get that pile on going.
We haven't done the Cave Goblin podcast yet, and I'm not sure who we'll have on for that one.
Be interesting. Is that the same reason you hate the Fallen Kingdom? Is hand dependent?
I mean, partially. I mean, playing as the Fallen Kingdom isn't too bad. Like I've been playing a little bit of them, just trying to see if I can like them somehow. The games where I get a good hand with Blood Summon, the game's actually pretty fun when I can do these cool Blood Summon turns. But when you don't get that, when they're buried at the bottom, I don't know, I just don't care for the faction very much. And playing against them is even worse. I just cannot figure out, how to protect myself from Blood Summoning and warriors in my face rolling 9 dice.
And Soul Shift and stuff.
Exactly, yeah. Soul Shift, I never remember how that all works. I would get surprised by that.
So it's not that you're just a big champ guy like Jexic here, and that's the reason you don't like them. And
actually, I don't play a lot of champs. I think I have a hard time building enough magic, or I should say discarding for magic. Right? An old term. I'm still stuck with.
I still catch myself saying build sometimes, or building to a certain amount, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I cannot shake that. I always use building cards for Magic.
The one I'll still keep myself or see myself saying sometimes is I'll still call them walls. Yeah,
I used to
walls.
do that a lot, but I think now I'm the other way. When I'm referring to first edition, I catch myself calling them gates. So
It's amazing how much has stayed the same, and yet there are a lot of key differences that seem to make it better. Yeah, at this point, we mentioned first edition. Do you think you ever see yourself playing it again, or are you kind of all on board with second?
I don't see how I would ever play first edition again. I mean, if something catastrophic happened and second edition vanished from the face of the earth, maybe I would, but I'd probably have to, tweak some rules, of course. And nowadays, there's just so many other good games out there. Like back, even before there was a lot of games, but not compared to today. So I just think there'd be more better games out there to play at this point. Honestly, I think back then, first edition was really good, but if you took first edition and released it today, I don't think it would do nearly as well.
That's probably fair. Did you immediately jump on second edition, or did it take you a while to find it, like some of the people in the community?
Heard about second edition like right when it was announced, and I was debating if I was going to purchase it or not, because at that time, first edition kind of ran its course. I had not a complete first edition set, but most of it, and I just didn't see myself playing it again. There's a lot of burnout from the competitive scene, the camping in a corner, killing your own stuff type of thing that I just kind of got sick of after a while. But I thought, the art looks pretty cool, maybe a little corny, some of the stuff for Cave Goblins and Fallen Kingdom, but I wasn't a big hater of the art like some people were pretty vocal about at the beginning. It was just different. I don't think people just don't like change, I guess. I didn't want to feel left out, so I did subscribe to get it, sent to me, but I didn't even play the game until like wave 2 or something was like fully out. I just kept getting them in the mail and looking over the cards and thought, oh, this looks kind of cool, but I don't know if I want to play it. And eventually, my partner, I got them to try the game out because more and more factions keep coming out. They keep getting cooler and cooler looking. So we played some games and they actually kind of liked it. My partner actually beat me the first couple of games that we played.
Little bit rusty, I get it.
Yeah, a little rusty. Now they won't play with me at all because I have thousands of
Play
games under
online
my
too
belt
much.
now, so it's not fair anymore. But they don't really like the confrontational head-to-head, beat each other up type of games typically. But so I eventually started playing online right before I think Wayfarers and Shadow Elves came out. I remember I was playing against a bunch of different factions and then nothing but those two for a while. So
Upon release, they'll often be those two for a while. Although nowadays, I don't see that much forged. It seems like
it's getting a little less with each release, I feel like, just because there's more out there to play as, I feel like.
Too many options. People don't just jump into the new one. There's a couple people in the community, I think Baggins does this, that just do a randomizer every time. So they don't even let themselves pick ever. And they just randomize every single match.
I've been doing that more often this last season. I didn't really do it before, but I have been lately for maybe like half my games. I've kind of been just doing random.
I was doing like the opposite. Like in season 2 and 3, I was purposely picking factions I didn't have a gold badge with yet.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
I just kept making it harder for myself, and then this season I basically just be playing factions I hate, so I stopped doing that.
Yeah, there's only maybe a couple factions I'd still like to get the badges for.
Yeah, when I say gold, I mean like gold or even copper. Like anything I didn't have at least a copper badge with, I'd be like, okay, I won't play that next season, and then
It's gold or nothing for me. It's gonna get harder and harder each season with more and more players joining in too.
But then they did the 45-minute queue opened up again, and I was just basically just jamming like Tundra Orcs and Obsidian Dwarves because I can think about them quickly.
Yeah, I have yet to hop into the 45-minute queue. Typically, Summoner Wars is just I pick it up, take a couple turns, and then go back to paying attention to my partner or working.
I usually like wait till the evening or something to do it these days, or my schedule's kind of erratic, so sometimes it'll be in the afternoon, And then, what do you think about like the difference between playing like a 45-minute game or like a live game and the other one, or if we'll ever be able to do live tournaments, that kind of thing. Because I know you're into obviously doing these online tournaments that are all asynchronous.
Back in first edition on Vassal, I mean, that's the only option you had was a live game. So I ran a bunch on there, and we made that work through scheduling. But I think with asynchronous aspect, you can do tournaments that have a lot more games, right? During the Vassal times in first edition, I would do like single elimination or double elimination type tournaments, or not nearly as many games as I have been in my tournaments I've ran in second edition so far. So I think that would be a little bit trickier. I think some some kind of formats you could do live, but yeah, the tournaments I've ran so far, I don't see them happening that way. I mean, if certain people want to do a live game, I mean, they can go ahead and do it. I'm pretty flexible with that if people want to, but the default would be asynchronous games for my tournaments, probably for the foreseeable future.
I think for me, I just don't ever think about doing a 45-minute game. Like, most of the time, I am similar to you, Tortugatron, in which I just like pick it up, play a couple turns, and sometimes I won't even play the turns. I'll just like see I have turns ready, take a look at them, and be like, okay, now I'm gonna think about that for a second.
There's been times, yeah, like I pull up a turn and I think, ooh, that's a tricky situation right there. I don't know if I have time to think about this. I'll put it away, and I may take it out again a couple of times. I have other games going, and I'll look at that one again and go, nah, I'm not ready for that one yet.
That's one thing I've noticed just looking at the league. It always seems like the top division is the last one to finish through some combination of maybe scheduling or like longer games, or also just taking more time to think about the turns. That's just something I found interesting.
It's a lot more at stake up there.
A lot of people in the top division also just don't start their games on time. Like, I have yet to feel like I had a season in Division 1 where everybody started their games on time. Like, it'll be like Monday and we'll be like, oh, we should probably like start this, right?
Yeah, a lot of times I'll start my games like a day or two late, but I mean, typically by Monday they're going.
Sometimes you just don't have to deal with the stress of those division games if you don't start them, you know?
Yep.
And also, like the fact that it starts on Thursday or Friday, it's like sometimes you don't want to be thinking about that on your weekend, you know? Like,
Yeah. Or if you work the weekend, then you don't really have time to think about it.
Typically I don't work weekends. Sometimes I do Saturdays, but typically I have time to take some turns, so I'll usually start them by Saturday or Sunday.
So one of the tournaments you just ran, it's called Turtle Panic. What gave you the idea for that tournament, and like how did it work?
So the idea or the inspiration came from Redacted Baggins. Mr. Baggins decided to say he wanted to play some tournament where everything was random. I thought, oh, that's a kind of a good idea, and we were kind of waiting for the tournament to start that Joe runs. We're still waiting. I don't think we're going to get one this time, but he's been busy, so that's okay. He just mentioned that, and I thought, if I just set this up like right now and just get signups open immediately, we could get this thing running and maybe over with before the next tournament starts. So I just decided to do it. And how it worked was it was pretty much the same format as Joe's tournaments, where in his you pick 4 factions and then you play 4 games a week for 2 weeks. 1 game per faction. You play a total of 8 games, and then a certain amount of people move on, and then it happens again, and then so on and so forth. For mine, you just got assigned 4 random factions, and whatever you got, that's what you're stuck with. Hopefully you like at least a couple of them. Same thing, we did 8 games total over 2 weeks. Then about half the people moved on to the second round, where you have 4 completely new factions that you were given out at random. Then another 8 games. And then I did like a top 4 instead of just a top 2, just because of the randomness. I felt like a top 4 was probably better. And that was like a best of 3, just like how Joe did it. Again, 3 new factions that were random, and then final matches yet again, 3 more factions. So if you made the finals, you played as 14 random factions.
Of 22?
Yep, of 22.
Almost. A good chunk of them for sure.
Yeah, we could have done every single one if I would have made it so you were assigned 8 random factions each round, so you only play 1 game as each of them, but I don't know. That would require more thinking on my part to make sure nobody got duplicates, so
a little more of a hassle. The one thing I like is just your spreadsheets look nice with all the little symbols and everything.
Yeah, I like to make pretty spreadsheets. I like all the Summoner Wars symbols and stuff. I've thought about the idea, and I know you have too, James, where like to get tattoos of like the different symbols and stuff.
Yeah.
Get a whole sleeve that I add to, you know.
Yeah, just like
Every single symbol?
Yeah, every single one. I was thinking
That'd
about
be
it, but
pretty
I don't think
sweet.
it's gonna happen.
yeah, I mean, there's so many symbols that they'd be all around your whole body eventually.
I would hope that Colby would get to 66, so I'd have a complete set.
Yeah, that's a lot.
He stops at 65.
It's got this open spot on your left arm.
Yeah, because I'd plan it all out, and if it didn't completely form the sleeve shape I wanted, then my OCD brain would go crazy over that. I have to create my own faction or
You
something.
just fill it in with like the magic symbol or something.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, for a long time I was thinking about getting the cloak symbol. But again, I'm not as good with them in second edition, so maybe not. Maybe I'd start with like a Tundra Orc or Cave Goblin tattoo.
Just get it Brep's face,
Prob's face.
and then just like so many little bow and arrow signs underneath him.
Just a bunch of dice showing bows.
Every time you break your record, you got to add more of them onto it.
Just like a dot tattoo for every single time you hit with Brub.
Or like the airplanes, like World War II, you know, put little planes on there. How many you took down?
Well, that tournament definitely made me panic. I made it to the second round and promptly decided that I was not having a good time.
Did you get a bunch of factions that you weren't good with or not comfortable with in the second round?
I don't remember all the factions I got. I know I got Cloaks in the second round, which is normally a faction that I take in tournaments. So that wasn't it. And I, in my first week, actually sneaked out a game against, I think it was Davood, that I probably shouldn't have won as Cloaks. He was playing, I think, Cave Goblins and had me on the ropes, had me on Econ, and then left Sneaks just a little too open, and I out of Shadows him and got the dub. Yeah, I mean, that was one of my 2 wins in the second round. The last one I took was a game that didn't matter against Orange Lazarus, and I played CO at Crimson Order, and I played against his High Elves, which was a league matchup recently.
And you win as a Crimson Order?
I won as Crimson Order, yep.
I think Orange Lazarus maybe took his foot off the gas since he already qualified for the.
Okay. I've beaten him before, guys. It's not the first time.
I went 3-5 in the first round, so I did not make it.
Yeah, I think I did that too.
It was a tough field. A lot of really good players. A lot of new good players. A lot of players who are not like brand new, but like less than probably 6 months into the game that are really, really strong.
The one who won, B Slumbers, he's still relatively new to the game, although I guess he lurked a bit in first edition. Yeah, he won the whole thing. Congrats to him.
There was some relatively newer names on there that I thought it's like, oh, I see all these well-established players, and I think I really hope that these new players, you know, just don't get destroyed, and then you know they don't want to join my tournaments anymore, and then a lot of them, you know, did a lot better than did better than me.
Yeah, I mean, the one name that always scares me is Vexer, and Vexer did beat me in the second round. Bull rushed. I don't remember who I was playing, but I remember he was Sand Goblins and just went full force, just rushed me. Oh, I was Obsidian Dwarves. I'm not very good with Obsidian Dwarves. And I never drew the combo to like take care of Krusk, even though he left Krusk open a little bit, just going for some real aggressive play, and so I never had an answer.
Yeah, I got Sand Goblins the first round. Actually won one of my games, which I was surprised to do because I'm usually horrible with them as well. I guess I don't like Goblin factions, so we'll see how these Storm Goblins shake up when they release.
They're electric. I like the Storm Goblins a lot. I like Goblin factions, though. Every Goblin faction has been a hit for me.
I like the idea of the Sand Goblins, but I just don't like discarding from the top of my deck when I don't know what's there. It's a really bad
That's
feeling.
my favorite part about them.
I hate it so much.
I love to just burn hot. Because the funny thing is, people are like, well, you might discard Silts. If I discard Silts, I'm burning hot even harder. What's the worst that could happen? You can't discard Silts again? It already happened.
Discard both detonates and scabs.
Mortar every turn.
I don't do it all the time, but I mean, I'm not like if the extra movement and the extra attack are valuable, I'll probably burn hot. a couple times a game at least.
The thing is, they can win without Silts. Silts is like very strong in that deck, but if you lose Silts, it's not against most factions. It's not the end of the world. It does make their end game a little weaker because if you have Silts out with Krusk in the end game, it's disgusting. Same with if you do Sparks. Sparks is great.
Because like Sparks, you can get back with Scavengers, and you can detonate them. Like you can play Sparks twice a game if you discard Silts. You know, it's not the end of the world.
I think it's worse to get rid of detonates, though. I'd rather get rid of Silts than detonate, for sure.
Really? I don't know about that. That's close. Detonates are tough. If you lose a detonate,
How am I supposed to get all the stuff in my Mega Gate back in my hand if I don't have detonates?
you use your other detonate. That's why you got two of them.
I know I played a game where I burned hot or mortar or whatever and got rid of both detonates, and it felt real bad.
I'm usually super cautious with my detonates. In that game where I played against Vexor used one of the first turns with a biter and did like 4 or 5 damage to Balzar in my back row. That hurt me. That hurt way more than I felt like it should have.
He just loaded up a biter and exploded it.
Yeah, he loaded up a biter with like 3 wrench rats. All right, here you go. Straight to the face. And I was like, oof.
I think in some matchups, like it just helps to really go for the face, like against Balzar, for example.
Why don't you tell us, Tortugatron, a little bit about your other tournament that you ran? Because that one's a bit more complex in the format.
Yeah, so the first one I ran was called Turtle Mania. I'm a narcissist and must put turtle in all of my names. It stems back to like first edition. I ran a bunch of different turtle this, turtle that, like Turtle Cross, Turtle Geddon, Turtle Mania. I don't know why. It just happened that way. But in Turtle Mania, the whole thing was that it revolved around the build symbols for the different decks, the 12 different aspects, fire, water, light, control, spirit, all that kind of stuff. I know some people don't really care about that stuff, but I like geek out over them, and I wanted to do a tournament that specifically used those. And you would think that maybe I would like, deck building using custom decks. I honestly don't like deck building, but I do like the build symbols. But in Turtle Mania, you picked 3 of the symbols, and you had to play as all of the factions from each of those symbols. So I did it right after Wave 3 concluded, so there was 3 different factions per symbol. And I think that's how I'm going to do it for every Turtle Mania. When a wave concludes, I'll do it again, just so there's an even amount if I keep doing them. And so, like, I picked Spirit, Divine, and Cunning, I think. And, I liked all the Spirit factions, I liked all the Divine factions, but Cunning, Cave Goblins are in there, so I was just stuck with them. I couldn't come up with a better one than that, so that's just what I had to deal with. I thought that'd be an interesting kind of exercise for people to go through to figure out, okay, what are my favorite factions, but okay, what are those symbols? Do I like all those factions? Should I pick that, that symbol because they're my favorite faction, but then I'm stuck with this other one? How the format worked was, I think there was like a group of 4 people play each of them. You'd play 3 games per each, so it'd be like if you picked water as one of yours and they picked air, your 3 water factions would go against their 3 air factions, and best 2 out of 3 would take the match. Then after round 2, or after round 1, you go to round 2, and like the top player and maybe some second place players would make it, and then you do it again. And then for the semifinals and the finals, I did like a veto type thing. So you have your 3 factions, who you're facing, their 3 symbols rather, and you get to pick to veto one of those. So I don't want to face, dark. So, they get to pick between their other 2. And then same thing for you. And then in the final, it was the 2 symbols that you didn't play as in the semifinal, and your opponent got to pick which one they want to, face in the final. So that's kind of how that one worked.
I thought it was a really interesting restriction when I played it too. Because like you were saying, a lot of times you might like 2 factions with a build symbol, but maybe not the third. So you kind of have to be a little flexible and try different things out. And I also think too, it just kind of worked out that very few of like the top tier decks were all in the same symbol, just the way we think about the tiers usually, So usually each symbol would have a good mix of things.
I don't know. I feel like growth is pretty strong as a symbol.
I I almost picked growth, but I don't really like the swamp orcs.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like I didn't like playing fungal dwarves, so I didn't pick growth. But I don't know what was the symbol that had the best win rate. Do you remember that?
I think I crunched the numbers, but I cannot remember what it was. I have to go back and look.
I remember I was thinking that Spirit was probably strong too because it had Savannah elves and Wayfarers and the birds.
I think there was only like 20 players in that tournament though, so it's not like the data set's very big. Like every single symbol was chosen, but like I think fire was only chosen once. Air was like 2 times. Light, I think, was maybe only once or twice.
Was there some crossover? Like if someone chose like dark growth?
Then they could have fungal dwarves twice. Yeah.
Yep, yeah. For me, I did cunning and spirit, so I got to play wayfarers twice.
Nice.
I think I could do cave goblins. I'm trying to remember what my 3 symbols were. I think I took like resolve actually, or psychic, primal, and spirit. I think maybe I picked it so I wouldn't have any duplicates.
Wondering if I should put that in there, like you can only have so many duplicates, like either one or nothing, but I figured now I'll just let people play whatever. It's already kind of a restriction anyway. There was one combination of symbols back at the end of Wave 3 that you could have had 3 duplicates if you would have picked light and divine and control. I think that triangle had already been completed, but nobody did that.
Interesting. Yeah. Nobody wants to play Vanguards twice and
Eternal Council twice. Yeah.
High Elves twice. Nobody wants to play all 3 of those. Nobody's got that much good in them.
So you said you're thinking of doing another one, probably when Wave 4 is done?
Yeah, I think that's probably the next tournament that I'll be running, just because that's coming up here pretty soon. I thought about changing the format a little bit, like having people, since there'll be 4 now, do a best of 4 against players. Doesn't really work for a winner because it could go 2 and 2. So I thought we'll keep it at 3 factions per build symbol. For more people to want to participate, I'll make it a little easier on them, and you can pick your 3 favorites out of the 4. But then I think, James, you were like, oh, why don't you just cycle out, the master set and make it easier? Like, oh, maybe I should just do that. So I think that's what I'm leaning towards, is just wave 2, 3, 4, so no master set factions. I don't know if I'll keep cycling things out to keep it new or do something else for the 3rd one, but we'll see.
It might have been Purse Warden who came up with that idea when we were talking about it, but I do think it's a good idea, just especially because when people look at the decks that have the most rough edges at this point, it kind of goes back to some of those master set decks. So if and it takes out 2 of your least favorite ones in the Fallen Kingdom and the Cave Goblins, you won't have to play those anymore.
Potentially the 2 least favorite.
Yeah, I think they might be now. So, and I'm kind of coming around to the Shadow Elves. Maybe I'll continue to like them more and more as I play them. So, maybe I can choose Dark and not have to play as Ret Talus. I do like the Crimson Order, but I know some people don't find them very entertaining. But I don't know, I like them. Playing against them, they're okay. But
I like them a lot. I haven't played against them a crazy amount, but
I had a very funny game against them recently.
the Crimson Order hate's died down a little bit.
yeah, now it's Rogue's
now
hate.
Frog hate.
Yep,
Yeah,
it moved on.
It pops up every now and then. I'm just glad people are not talking about the fungal dwarfs anymore.
Nope, they're fine, perfectly fine now.
They're weak. Buff them. Buff them.
Vexer released he had his little tier list, and he said fungal dwarves are still S tier.
Did he release an actual tier list? I haven't seen.
Well,
it.
he mentioned it in kind of just like an offhanded thing in the thread.
Oh yeah, I did see that. He's like, I don't want to play against these 4 factions anymore.
I don't think that faction choices are as important as he's making out to be, but I guess he's also making assumptions that A, the players are equally strong, and B, they have equally good dice. So then he's just like, at that point, what matters is he thinks just the faction strength. But I don't think faction strength is as different as it kind of seemed.
I mean, there's other factors that play into it. Like, you can have 2 players who are equally strong, and they're just play styles that just don't mesh. For example, like, I often struggle playing against Massimo. I play for Econ a lot, and Massimo likes to play these keep away games, just like sitting in the back and like trying to make you have really tough turns. Can be hard to play against, especially if you play for Econ and don't ever discard your cards like I do. And then so I just get stuck with the same cards, never have any magic, and just get in bad spots because of the fact that I never like rush, and I'm always playing for Econ, and Massimo's just sitting back waiting for me to continually grind out my own deck.
Yeah, I play a lot of econ as well. Except when I'm like wayfarers, I usually try to go for the assassination or something. But yeah, when I'm against those keep away type players or factions, I do tend to struggle. And I know like Vexer said like the S tier ones were like cloaks and shadow elves and the groaks, and I think those are kind of the keep away factions right now. So
And fungal dwarves he threw in there, which I don't agree with, but I mean that's a weird keep away faction. That's all I'm saying.
I think he had Savannah Elves up there too.
yeah, he had Svanos also. I don't think they're all keep away factions. Those are just the S tiers that he said. I could see, playing all these good players, especially in the later rounds, and they're all playing a lot of keep away factions, and yeah, that could get a little grating. Of course, I wouldn't get there. I usually don't make it that far.
I don't think I made it to the last round in any of the main base deck tournaments. I've made it to the last round in the deck building tournaments, but those only have one round before that. So
I think I've only made the second round once in Joe's tournaments so far since I've been playing them. It's like in first edition, I'm not the strongest tournament player. I don't think I take my turns serious enough. I just kind of play with my gut.
The closest I've been in a in a base deck tournament of the main tournaments is the third place or fourth place spot because it was before the new format of tournaments and there was only like 4 people in a group or something. Maybe 5. I don't know. There's less people in a group than there are now.
what is it about making tournaments that you enjoy? Because it's just something. Because like you said, you're not necessarily the strongest player, but you enjoy like just the act of creating these tournaments and giving people something to do.
Yeah, I think so. I just like to organize stuff in general. I think as a kid, I would like make my own solar systems and organize the different moons and things, and I'd make my own maps and label everything. I wouldn't do anything with these things. I just like to create them. I think that's part of it.
So when you made your own maps, were those like of real places or fictional places?
No, just fictional places, just making stuff up.
Because I went through a map building phase as well. After I played the original Civilization on our old computer. I feel you there.
In first edition, I ran quite a few vassal tournaments, and then I took over for Joe and ran the app tournaments for like 3 years. I think Joe only ran like 1 or 2, and then I took over. It was taking him too long to start the next one. Although those ones took a lot more work. They didn't automatically start games, and you had to like generate your own tables and track results through the message boards and things. So, but I don't know. I've always liked organizing things like tournaments for video games with like my friends growing up. For the N64, there was like the Rush racing series. We created like a whole like a season where we'd play, and I kind of ran that, and I would do stuff like that all the time. And it wasn't even just for like in board games. It wasn't just for Summoner Wars. Like I got really into a game called X-Wing Miniatures, and I would run a bunch of the tournaments and free play days at the different game stores around here. It seems like I'm always running tournaments of some kind or another in some game.
X-Wing's a fun game too. I never got into the tournament scene, but I just love the positional play there and the guesswork of trying to figure out where your opponent's going to be.
Yeah, I've always liked the idea of like the tabletop, miniatures games. I didn't really like the measuring how many inches away are you, and like are you in cover? I don't know. Let's look at the line of sight. For X-Wing, it was more of like a tabletop game on rails, putting your maneuvers and that's what you did. You didn't just like pick a spot on the map and I want to move right here, because this is 8 inches away and this is how far I can move. So I liked it a lot better than any other ones that I've tried out with friends. And right when I kind of got burned out from first edition, I got really into X-Wing. And then right when I burned out from X-Wing, I went back to Summoner Wars. So it just cycles like that, I guess.
So we can thank you burning out on X-Wing for coming back.
Probably, yeah. I think you can thank COVID. That kind of killed the scene around here.
Yeah, definitely messed with a lot of live play of games for a bit there.
I'd probably still be playing it if it wasn't for that, because we had a really, really healthy community of X-Wing players. Because it was a Fantasy Flight game originally. It's been bought now, but and Fantasy Flight Games was headquarters here in the Twin Cities where I live.
Oh, okay. So this is like the hometown game.
We got lots of cool prize support and stuff from the people that work there. More swag.
That's pretty cool.
thing I think is tough for Summoner Wars is like, what do you give people for prizes?
I mean, I'm trying to run a tournament in the next month, and I bought a bunch of playmats to give as prizes.
Yeah, playmats, the dice. I guess they could make like different dice, like different colored dice and things, each season or whatever, if they did more organized play in person. That's what X-Wing did. Like I have a whole bunch of different dice from that game.
Buy all the deck boxes and give those away.
That works. Kind of spendy though.
But a lot of your tournaments, your avatar and your persona is all turtle themed. Have you ever thought of making like a turtle faction? Like a custom one for Summoner Wars?
I can't remember what factions I made in first edition anymore. I'd be able to look them up if the message boards were still active, but they're not. I think one of them was a turtle faction, but I can't remember what it did. But I've been petitioning for Colby to make a turtle faction for quite some time now. I'm very vocal about it. I keep calling them Tortugons. He better make one that's called Tortugons if he does make one.
There's 66, and we've only done 24.
Yeah, it's gonna happen, 22. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally reasonable.
What faction symbols were you like petitioning for? Because you had some, right?
Yeah, I think I like water, of course, because of turtles, and they're really beefy units, of course, because shells. But also divine, again, because of the shells and they're more defensive, but also because so far divine is the only one that I actually like all of the factions from. So I figure that'll probably continue. I'll probably like them then.
Water Divine sounds so annoying to fight.
Tanky things that don't die, yeah.
Yeah, tanky things that never die.
I think they'd have to be pretty slow, kind of like Turt was in the first edition. I don't want them to just have the slow ability where like the ice golems have. And I'm thinking about calling them something like coastal tortugons or something coast tortugons, and having to do something with like tides and waves coming in and out. But I think that's what the Shimmer Sea Fae is going to kind of be doing, so I don't know if I can do that anymore. Give them a little extra movement if they all move in one direction,
Yeah, we'll have to see with the Shimmer Sea and see what happens there.
Just from what the cards are called, it seems like it's going to be something like that at least.
Yeah, and the art looks gorgeous for the Shimmer Sea.
Normally, like water factions, I don't dislike any of them, but I don't really like any of them. Like they're all like kind of middling. Like both of the orcs are just kind of whatever to me. They're in the probably lower third, but I don't dislike them like the goblins or Fallen Kingdom or something. And then the polar dwarves, I don't know, they've just never really clicked with me. I always get bogged down in those glacial shift ice ram turns. It doesn't seem like I can do them as well as other people.
I don't love the orc factions, but I like polar dwarves.
The polar dwarves are probably my favorite water faction, but that doesn't say a lot for how I feel about the orcs.
Turt's your avatar, and you are the only one in the game that can have Turt as an avatar, and you can't change your avatar anymore.
Why would you want to if you have Turt?
It's true. And for those who don't know, Turt was a champion of the Swamp Mercenaries from first edition. But why Turt? Why not Prong? Equally iconic.
Yeah, Prong's probably cooler, honestly. Like, seeing the whole art of Turt, isn't that cool looking, but, if you get it up towards the face, I think he looks cool. The lower body is kind of a mess for Turt. Doesn't look very cool. It looks like my uncle, maybe, a little bit. I didn't really care about the Swamp Mercenaries that much. I just really liked having a turtle in the game, because that's just been kind of my moniker for quite some time. Going all the way back to, 2002, maybe. I've been going by Turtle. It's kind of a weird story how that happened, because my Xbox Live gamer tag was Thule, or Thule, I guess, but I pronounced it Thule because I didn't know any better. Thule, and that was from this map from some old game called Tribes 2. Had this map called Ultima Thule in it, and I thought, oh, Thule, that's a cool word, so I'll take that. I'll call myself that. Everybody in the voice chat on Xbox Live, they did not read or something, and they all just started calling me Turtle. Like, it's not Turtle. I mean, there's a lot of the same letters in there, but I don't know why so many people are calling me Turtle. So I just kind of changed my name to Turtle and just adopted it. You can't just say your name's Turtle on the web, on any of the sites, because that's been taken. So I had to kind of class it up a little bit. So I took my love of Transformers and created Tortugatron is my name for everything now for over a decade now.
So you got bullied in Xbox Live into becoming the turtle guy.
Kinda. I don't. They weren't making fun of me. They just couldn't read. I guess. I don't know.
No one read my Xbox Live gamer tag in the early 2000s correctly either, because I had one that was like pernicious J or something like that, and everyone would say promiscuous.
It's a little worse than being called turtle.
It is, but not everyone said promiscuous. But I definitely heard that a few times, and I thought that was funny. So, like, you talking about your turtle confusion made me think about that too.
You know, I liked turtles. Like, I'm a big Ninja Turtles fan. Growing up, I got the little Ninja Turtles comic books and figurines and everything. Like, I had so many of them.
We'll keep putting in good words for you.
I think I'm already in his head. Like, why would he make me a Turt avatar? So I think if I just stick to it, we'll eventually get one.
They like doing these non-overdone fantasy races, and I can't think of many games that have a turtle faction. So aside from, like you said, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that's about it. That's the closest
Only
thing.
thing I can think of. That and Kermit.
I haven't played Baldur's Gate, but I know it's like D&D-esque, and there is a D&D race in one of the books that's like a turtle.
Isn't there pretty much every single race in D&D by now, though?
Yeah, there is. I don't know if it's in Baldur's Gate because I haven't played it, but maybe it is. I don't think it's probably in there. It's like a small race in D&D, not like a normally used one. That's the only game that I could think of that might have turtle faction.
Yeah, I definitely want to see the turtle faction, but also I'm really liking these other animal factions, and I hope they keep coming. Like, we were getting the Vekid. They're coming back, lizard people, so that's nice.
Was that announced for sure?
I don't think Colby said 100% this is what's happening, but I was badgering him as I normally do on the streams, and he said a water spirit faction. He was thinking about calling them the Isle Vekid. I'm pretty sure they're going to be Vekid. It may not be Isle Vekid, because he was kind of hesitant on that, but that's what they're called right now anyway.
That's the one that Nick came up with, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That'll be interesting to see. I'm excited for it.
Frogs, lizards, I mean, turtles are next, right?
He was trying to think of a way because I think Nick had based the faction on like being in water entirely, and he was like, "We can't have a water faction. The Summoner Wars happen on land. We need a way to get them on land." So that was probably where the Vekids came in. He was like, lizards can be in water and land.
So can turtles. Not sea turtles. They don't do too well on the beach. I'll allow tortoises.
What would be your preferred turtle? If you had to pick one turtle for the faction to be like made after, which type of turtle would you choose?
With the big champ heavy, really beefy units, of water, you'd have to go like snapping turtles, right?
That's a good one.
I think you can have a combination of different types of turtles. You don't have to have just one. Kind of like the birds. There's multiple different birds.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm assuming that like if you went like sea turtles, it would probably be most sea type turtles.
Yeah, I don't think you can do like the full sea turtles.
Or if you went tortoises, you'd be more tortoise heavy than like if you didn't go tortoises at all.
Yeah, I mean, you could have your painted turtles, box turtles, things like that.
I think the snapping, that'd be pretty cool. You could have like reach on it and
Yeah.
just make the swamp orcs, but Muglug is a snapping turtle.
That would work. If the swamp orcs were the swamp tortugons instead, I might just have to like them anyway. I'd make myself like them.
I mean, does it work for the rest of the units? Can we change all the units to turtles?
I feel like you probably could. I mean, the
Drudger, I feel like could work.
yeah, they're protection.
The champs might be more difficult.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know, like how Glurp would work for that.
Bog turtle is just a turtle that's inside shell the entire time, just holding on to those boosts. Never leaves the shell. I think it could work. I think it could be done.
Do a little reskin.
Who needs swamp orcs? Swamp tortugatrons.
Tortugons, not tortugatrons. They don't have to be exactly named after me. They just need to be clearly inspired by me, so everybody knows where they came from. Like, I don't need a summoner named Tortugatron. Like, I'm not Jexic or something.
I didn't ask for this.
I didn't ask for my avatar. Well, actually, I did. I did ask for my avatar.
Yeah, you did. You did. You definitely did.
Yeah,
You asked for
I
that.
didn't ask to be the only one that could have it. I just wanted it added to the list.
He wanted it to be an option. But then he was like, who else is going to want this besides him? So they just gave it to you.
They wanted it to be a penance that you had to deal with also, that you couldn't change.
Yep.
You'll get it, but you won't get a choice.
Careful what you wish for.
Well, we appreciate you coming on Tortugatron and hanging out with us.
Yeah, no problem. I liked it. Very fun.
We'll have to see when the Turtle faction comes out and bring you back on to discuss it.
Absolutely.
So if people are looking to join any of your tournaments or find you, is it just best to look you up as Tortugatron on the Discord?
Yep, just Tortugatron on the Discord. I'm not really on any other social medias or anything. I mean, I have a Facebook, but I don't use it too much.
You don't have a turtle Twitter? Come on.
Never was into Twitter. Didn't really care for it. And especially not now that it's X or whatever.
Well, this has been Discard for Magic, and we will see you guys in a couple weeks.